Scott Podesdnik was an outfielder who played for 11 seasons in Major League Baseball from 2001 to 2012. He played for 7 teams during his career, but spent the most time with the Chicago White Sox, where he was a part of the World Series winning team in 2005. A light hitter, Podesdnik wasn't known for his hitting. During his career, he came to the plate over 4,300 times, in which he slashed .281 with a .339 on base and .379 slugging for a .719 OPS and .88 adjusted OPS. He was decent at getting on base, but rarely hit for extra bases, especially in the second half of his career. While he never hit a ton of home runs or was never a top-of-the-line fielder, he excelled at one specific thing: stealing bases. Podesdnik stole 40 or more bases in 4 consecutive seasons from 2003 to 2006, including a league-leading 70 stolen bases in 2004. In an 8-year stretch from 2003 to 2010, Podesdnik was just one of 5 players to steal at least 300 bases. In addition to that, among all players in the modern era to have as many or fewer plate appearances as Podesdnik, only 5 players have stolen more bases than him. He's one of the top stolen base threats of his time, and an excellent one overall, but still not a great hitter, and simply an okay at best player. That is evidenced by the fact that he has only 6.9 WAR in his career, which includes only 3 seasons in which he earned at least 1 WAR. In short, while he was an excellent base stealer and managed to stick around the league for over a decade, he's a forgettable player that most people are probably unaware of. So, what makes Podesdnik unique? Well, his 2005 season. That year, he was the everyday left fielder for the White Sox, in which he slashed .290 with a .351 on base and .349 slugging for 700 OPS and 86 adjusted OPS across 568 plate appearances. He stole 59 bases for Chicago that season, was an all-star, and even placed fairly high in the MVP award voting, finishing at 12th place. I find it funny how Podesdnik finished much higher in the voting than Orioles second baseman Brian Roberts, despite the fact Roberts' OPS was over 200 points higher and had over 4 times the amount of WAR. Moving on, it was a decent season, but nothing great. 1.7 WAR and 86 adjusted OPS are nothing eye-opening, and if anything, actually below average. However, what stands out in Podesdnik's 2005 season is his home run total. Scott Podesdnik hit a grand total of 0 home runs. Hitting 0 home runs in a qualified season, especially in recent years, is almost unheard of. Home runs have been at an all-time high in baseball ever since the start of the steroid era in the early 90s. If we look at all player seasons in the wildcard era, which is 1995 to present day, there have been only 12 instances of a player having a qualified season and hitting 0 home runs. Even if we exclude the shortened 2020 season, there have been over 4,000 qualified player seasons in Major League Baseball from 1995 through the 2022 season, and again, this has only happened 12 times. That's less than 0.3% of all player seasons. Funny enough, there wasn't even a 0 home run season in 2020. In terms of the 12 0 home run seasons, nothing about Podesdnik stands out or is unique. He was middle in the pack in both adjusted OPS and WAR. He didn't have the most stolen bases of this group, not the best stats, not even the most plate appearances. So what, you might be thinking? Sure, it was a rare season to have no home runs, but it's insignificant. It's also not as if Podesdnik was the most recent person to do so, as we had a 0 home run season just last year in 2022. Yes, normally I would agree that it's an unimportant season that isn't worthy of a video, except for one critical and historic at-bat Podesdnik had during 2005. In Game 2 of the World Series, with the game tied at 6 in the bottom of the 9th with 1 out, Scott Podesdnik came to the plate with the bases empty, and well...
2-1. A swing and a high fly ball. Deep right center field. This is way back in the gap, and it's a gunner! A White Sox winner!
At the time, it was just the 14th ever walk-off home run in World Series history, and is probably the most unexpected World Series home run ever. Ironically enough, that was Podesdnik's 2nd home run of the year, as he homered in Game 1 of the American League Division Series. 568 trips to the plate during the regular season without a home run, and 2 in the span of 9 games, with the second one being historic. Looking at the other 0 home run seasons, there were a handful of those players that also played in the playoffs in the same year, but all others failed to hit a home run in their postseason games. If we look at the other 13 players to hit a walk-off home run in the World Series up until Podesdnik did, he's the most unlikely player to do so. Of those other 13, only one had fewer than 10 home runs hit during the regular season, which was 5 home runs hit by Chad Curtis in 1999, albeit in less than half of the plate appearances Podesdnik had. Some might say Bill Mazeroski was just as unlikely to hit a walk-off home run, but he did hit 11 home runs in 1960 and was 2 years removed from hitting 19 in a single season. According to Podesdnik himself, he had a feeling the pitcher, Brad Lidge, was going to throw a fastball just as he did the previous pitch, so he swung where it was delivered and teed off. Speaking of Lidge, him being on the mound makes this improbable home run even more unlikely. The previous game Lidge pitched in, he gave up that iconic home run to Albert Pujols. That's right, this was the second consecutive game Lidge allowed a go-ahead home run in the postseason. Despite the home runs, Lidge was electric in 2005, posting a 2.29 ERA, 185 adjusted ERA, and recording 42 saves. He was, without a doubt, one of the top relievers in baseball at the time. In over 70 innings pitched during the regular season, Lidge had given up a total of 5 home runs. 5 home runs allowed to 291 batters during the regular season, and he gave up 2 in the span of 4 batters in the National League Championship Series and the World Series, the latter of which to a man that had 0 until October. To this day, the unlikeliest home run in World Series history.